Welcome to the movie review and plot outline of The Covenant by Guy Ritchie, released in 2023. It's currently on Netflix. Welcome. My name's Lasso. For those who don't know, welcome to Lasso's Passions. Hope you have a good time. This will be the 11th movie review I do of the year. I may end up doing two more before the year is up. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And if you like what I do, please like, subscribe, share, all the good stuff. Now, I got to get this out of the way real quick. These movie reviews are brought to you by my book, Dialogues, Oklahoma Independent Cinema. You can buy this book on Amazon. You can find it. It took me 2 years to write, published it this year. Came out in I want to say September-ish. It's on Amazon, $14.99. It's about the Oklahoma independent cinema, little niche, little part of the world here. And it's also brought to you by the State Gold Film Festival, which is taking submissions right now. You can find that at filmfreeway.com. If you have a short film, you can enter it, and it'll be selected and screened in a movie theater and awarded and all that good stuff. Judged and awarded. So, anyways, with that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? Let's get into it. Um, the Covenant. Wow. Yeah. Guy Ritchie's Covenant. It's a war movie, and it's suspenseful, it's intense, it's got anticipation, it's got action, it's got all the things you would want in a movie, and it touches on a theme that's very interesting, kind of similar to Saving Private Ryan, but it's a little different in the sense that the main character John Kinley, he's like his character arc is interesting because he goes from a sergeant, he's a sergeant in the military in the army, he's in Afghanistan, and he's I think he's a master sergeant, so he's in charge of a group. And so what happens, he's a very like by the book. He's there on a mission, he's serving the army. And it gets to a point where he starts kind of thinking outside the box, outside the normal chains and what do you call it? Bureaucracy. Joshua Ruffin, what's up? How you doing? Welcome. Um, so he starts becoming less about you know, the loyalty to the army itself, because in a sense it kind of failed him and Ahmed. And so he had to take it upon himself because he felt a moral obligation. I mean, the title is The Covenant, right? So what happens is Ahmed saves John Kinley's his life, right? And he's got to return that payment, the debt that he's in. Who do we have here? Giselle Frazier. What's up? How you doing? Welcome. Talking about The Covenant. It's on Netflix right now. You can check it out, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a Guy Ritchie film. So he has to go outside the chains of command. Essentially, he's got to go his own way to satisfy that debt that he has. He's tied to Ahmed because Ahmed saved his life in Afghanistan, and Ahmed was pretty much abandoned. There was a promise made, which was if he was going to work with the U.S. military, they promised him an opportunity to get visas to move to the United States, which never happened, right? So when Kinley discovers that, it basically torments him, right? Because he saved his life and he got abandoned, and now because he was working with the U.S. government, the army, and all that, the terrorists there, he's like the number one most wanted man, right? Ahmed, they want to kill him, so he's in hiding, and this makes John Kinley feel terrible. He can't even sleep. Even though he's alive, he feels like he has this debt that he's got to pay back. So that's where the title comes in, right? The Covenant. Um, Guy Ritchie, he's an amazing director, right? The story is based on a true story, and it touches on the fact on a much broader theme, which is how the U.S. military pretty much abandoned the interpreters and actually what happened when the U.S. military left Afghanistan and the U.S. didn't fulfill that their end of the bargain, which was to provide visas for the people that helped the U.S. Army. All these interpreters were killed by the Taliban. Like their families murdered, right? So and then in a more personal theme for the characters, it's about the loyalty and the loyalty to the men who are loyal to you, and the debt you have to pay back, especially when someone saves your life, right? So there's a more, it's not loyalty to the bureaucracy, but more loyalty to the men that are actually there for you, right? So that's kind of like the theme in this whole thing. The movie's well done. It's well done. It's very interesting, right? And the fact that it's based on a true story, it just makes it that much more interesting. Um, I It's a very good war movie. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of Saving Private Ryan, but I love the structure of it. Obviously, it hits all the typical script points that it has to hit, but it did so creatively. And there's the first act like breaking point, and the second act breaking point, the midpoint, all that. The way it's done is, to me, it was so different when it comes to movies and stories. It definitely did not know what to expect, and it definitely, like, the first time I watched it, it was weird because it was so different, even though it was hitting all the points, right? And so, but I really enjoyed it. It's good storytelling. Um, and Jake Gyllenhaal was a great actor in it, and the guy who plays Ahmed, also a great actor. Um, so my initial review, and I'll go over the plot and story and all that, the plot outline. But my initial review is it's a great movie. It's a great war movie. It hits its tropes as far as a war movie goes, especially in the ending. There's this thing called the third act Calvary, which is reminiscent to, similar, but not much of a cop out because it actually makes sense. This is a true trope to military movies where at the end, like pretty much the climax of the movie, you have reinforcements come in and they save the lives, right, of the heroes. That's a true trope to military movies. Now, very reminiscent to Dos Ex Machina, right? That term comes from old time storytelling where like an angel appears or a magical creature appears and saves their lives, right, at the last second. Well, kind of the same, but not exactly, right? Because actually, the third act Calvary is actually tied into the character setting it up. He calls for it, it's there just in case and whatnot. It's not just out of nowhere, right? It's set up. Um, and then yeah, it's just a good overall, good, really good military movie. Really shed some light and truth on the whole Afghanistan situation that I didn't know about. There's just things you don't know about. So it was interesting to see that. And like I said, it's a good action movie. It's got a lot of battles in it, and so they're entertaining at the same time. And it's yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say it's a highly emotional movie, but I will say it's a very good action military movie with a character who goes his character arc basically goes from like leading a group and surviving the war and all that stuff to somebody who is actually active in rescuing somebody, so he goes from that to that, right? Um so let's go over the plot and the story, shall we, a little bit. Um so what I found interesting about this movie is the inciting incident happens like immediately, which I find interesting because I find a lot of movies, the soonest I find them to be is usually like 5 minutes. But this one was like 2 minutes into the movie. Boom, inciting incident. Like get it over with and move on. And sometimes there's movies I found them to be really late in the movies. 15 minutes tends to be the regular time. And sometimes like one movie that I found had an inciting incident that was like almost 30 minutes into the movie. had a crazy setup in the beginning, but this one was right out of the gates. It was like, here's the first scene. You have Sergeant John Kinley, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and they're doing a routine like checkpoint thing, looking for we call them EIDs, explosive. Did I say that? Improv, yeah, explosive, improv, something. EIDs, I believe, is what they're called. And so that's their mission. That's what they do, and it's very dangerous. And so it starts out with them like checking vehicles, and 2 minutes in, there's an explosion. Their interpreter dies, and Jack dies. And so there you go. That's the inciting incident. I had to really scratch my head on that. And when it comes to inciting incidents, you have to ask yourself, if this moment in the story doesn't happen, does the rest of the movie happen? And so I was like, where is the inciting incident? It can't be so early in the movie, can it? 2 minutes in, can it be that early? I guess it can. Because I asked myself, if that incident doesn't happen, does the whole movie happen? And no, it doesn't. So that's the inciting incident right there. I thought maybe it was like somewhere deeper into the movie, but no. So it goes to the titles, right? And then back to the movie. They're back at a base, and I'm sure some time has gone by, not a whole lot, but John Kinley has to make a decision. He's got to pick a new interpreter, and also he gets a new like a, what do you call him? Like a junior. I don't know what they call him, but it's just they need a new soldier to replace Jack who died in the beginning. So they get a new soldier, they get a new interpreter, and then we're introduced to Ahmed. Ahmed is when we're introduced to him. There seems to be a little bit of friction between Ahmed and John Kinley. Ahmed is very strongly opinionated. He's very smart. He's very little risque, if you will. Um, but he is to the point where he means best for the group, right? He's acting in best in correlation with what's best for the group, even though like sometimes he breaks command, right, which is not good. But in doing so, he does a lot of good for the group. Anyways, that comes in a bit later when we're talking about rising action, and we're building up to act one, breaking point one, essentially. We'll get there. So in the rising action, basically what's going on is Ahmed is proving himself to John Kinley that he's a good man. So he does that through these little scenes, right? Coming up next. And so the next thing they do is they go out and on a routine. They get intelligence that there's a place that potentially has EIDs. So they check it, and it's like a little hidden kind of warehouse type thing. But what they find out is, and Ahmed knew because he knows the area. He's like, "There's no weapons here. I know the area." And it turned out it's like a smoking place, right, where people get high on opium or whatever. And so they're disappointed. And then the following day or something, they go to another to check another spot that intelligence told them to go to. Turns out it was nothing. And so at this point, John Kinley is getting a little frustrated because he's getting out there, dangerous situation. Opium den, yep. Typhoneer, you said it. Opium den, yeah. And so that day they just chill. They do a little barbecue. They chill. They pay their respects for Jack and the interpreter who died, and and so the following day, Jack Kinley goes to Colonel Vokes, which they have a bit of a relationship. You can tell through how they talk to each other, like they're friends outside of chain of command and all that. Um, but he's pretty much telling him he's like frustrated, like the intel isn't really giving him anything, and he's pretty much telling him, "Hey, look, I have my way of finding these places, but you're not going to like it." And Colonel Vokes is like, "Well, it doesn't matter if I'm going to like it or not, as long as you find them, is pretty much what he's saying, so go do it. And by the way, we didn't have this conversation. So then Kinley goes to this guy named Declan. He seems to be like an intelligence officer, and he prints him like a stack of papers, like some papers with some persons of interest that they could go talk to and find. And again, Declan's like, you did because I didn't see you talk to Vokes. These papers were never printed. They're just kind of funny game they're playing. Like, I didn't talk to you. You didn't get this for me. Because it's kind of outside of chain of command a little bit. And so Kenley has his information. He goes to Ahmed, and he's like, he shows him one of the printed pages, and it's just like this terrorist guy, and he asked Ahmed, "Do you know this guy?" And Ahmed's like, "Yeah, I know who this guy is. I know where to find him." So they at nighttime, the group goes out. They're incognito. They're in like this little van. They're all dressed like in like Muslim attire, essentially. And so they kidnap this guy, Edward. How do you say that? Deplete. Be safe, man. He says, "Be safe." Of course. Um, so they go out. They kidnap this guy, and they kind of what they do is they have the van. It's like they're in the middle of nowhere. They have the lights shining on them from the car, right? And they're just like the first thing they do. Well, there's a guy with a gun, right? Obviously, he can't run away. So they're asking him questions like, where can we find the EIDs, where the place where they build these bombs? And so he's not talking. They throw money at him, and then they throw like an orange uh, jumpsuit, or whatever, like those things that you see terrorists usually kill people what they're wearing, like they behead them. Because what they do is uh, to scare him, they take a picture with him with the American flag, make it look like he's a traitor. And so if he doesn't help the Americans, they'll send that picture to the terrorist, and then lo and behold, he'll probably get his head chopped off. So he's like, he's got an option. You can work with us, you can accept the money we're about to pay you, or we spread this picture around, and you'll be beheaded for being a traitor. You'll be known as a traitor. So the guy takes the money, and he's like, "Yeah, I know where some places where they build these, but you know what the problem is that when you cut one down, another one grows somewhere else." He's playing hard to get, and he's like, "Give me a little bit more money." And so Ahmed is like, he wants more money to get more information out of him. And so John Kinley's like, he gives a very strict order. He's like, "No, don't give him any more money. If the information is good and we get what we get, we'll pay him more." And then Ahmed is like, "Well, if we just pay him now, that'll save us time." And John's like, "No, you don't go over my command." And so Ahmed starts talking to the guy, right? I forget what language they speak, Dari or something. I'm not sure, but they're speaking. They're speaking. He's not getting anything. So finally, he just throws him another wad of money. And John's like, "Whoa, you just went over my head. That's not allowed." So eventually, they get information. They get a lead, and when they get back to the base, you know, John does a little inquiry about Ahmed. And it turns out he used to work with the Taliban, but the Taliban killed his son, so now he's like vigorously against them, right? And not only that, his brother Ali uh, works in a way with the Taliban because Ali produces like a lot of drugs and has some kind of drug dealing thing going on. So he finds that out, and he's kind of like, "Whoa, this is crazy. Like, why didn't anybody tell me?" So he goes and talks to Ahmed, has a little private conversation, and goes, he's like, "Don't ever go over my chain of command. Don't ever do that." And Ahmed goes, "You're right. I understood the objective. That's why I did it, and my way was sloppy." And then there's kind of like a, what do you call it when they're not, they're talking in a way that isn't at face value. They're talking in like, not, what do you call that? Like there's an underlying meaning what they're saying, right? So what John is saying is, if you're gonna go over my command, don't do it in front of my men. that makes me look bad, you know. And he's pretty much saying, good job, what you did, good job, but don't ever do that in front of my men because it makes me look bad. So that was the underlying meaning behind their conversation. And he's like, "Do we understand each other?" He's like, "Yeah, we understand each other." So now that they have information, actually, before this next scene, we the movie shows a little bit of John's family. He's on a video call. We see he's got a wife, two kids, and they're just having a nice family moment there. And then we cut to Ahmed family. He's in his little, I don't know what, like, it's not a shack, but it's not like a full house like you would see in suburbia here in America. It's like a little home. He's got a pregnant wife. They're talking about the visas, and how important it is to them. And the wife is like, "When are we going to get them?" And Ahmed, it's like, "It's going to take some time, but we're going to get them." And that's like the main thing for Ahmed is to get those visas, to get him and his wife, his pregnant wife, out of there to the states, which is actually very emotional when they finally get it at the end of the movie. As far as like the wife is like very like overwhelmed that they actually got it, that John came back for them. So it's actually one of the most emotional moments in the movie. Um, but that's a bit later, right? So we're still in Act One. We're setting up the situation. The movie's starting. Everything's getting set up. And then so we're getting near Act Two. We're getting near to Act One. Act One's breaking point, essentially turning point. Um, where at that point, that solidifies the journey for the main character for John, which he walks through a doorway essentially he can't walk back to, right? So when that happens, when there's a moment in the story, it's called the turning point in Act One. It basically means that the character he's forced into a situation that was way different from where he was, and he can't return back to how things were, right? Um, which which sometimes does happen, kind of with the inciting incident, but it's not what an inciting incident does. That's strictly what a turning point in Act One. That's what that does. That's the main function of that, among other things. But essentially, what happens is before we get to that turning point, John has a meeting with Colonel Vokes, and he's like, he's talking about Ahmed. And actually, no, we're not even there yet. Yeah, he goes to Vokes, and he's like, okay, we have a location. We're gonna go check it out. We're still in the rising action that leads to Act Two, right, to the turning point. The rising action is Ahmed proving to John his loyalty to the group, right? He's brand new, and John is also testing like, can I trust Ahmed? Can we trust him? So they're learning. They're basically learning each other. Like, are we loyal to each other? Which sets up the whole movie, right? So they go to this first location. They're on their way, and there's this guy named Hadi, and he works for them as well. And they're going over the route. He's like, and he says something that struck really strange to Ahmed. But Hadid is like, don't take this route. Go this route instead. It's gonna be an extra 30 minutes, but this is the route you want to go because it rained out last night and the path is like not good. So take this route. So then they all agree they're on their way, but this stuck out to Ahmed as really strange. So while they're on their way, uh, Ahmed is like, Sergeant, can you stop the car? Can you stop the vehicle, please? I feel like there's something wrong. John Kinley is like, no, we're not going to stop. We're getting to this point, and then but Ahmed insists. He's like, no, we need to stop. There's something really wrong here. I need to talk to you. And so Sean listens to him, and he's like, all right, you want to be right? What he's like, what is it? What is it you want to talk to me about? And Ahmed is like, don't you find it strange that Hadid told us to go this way, and there hasn't been any rain. There's nothing weird about these roads or the roads that we didn't take. And John's like, well, I don't know. Like, he doesn't really put two and two together. So Ahmed is like, I think it's a trap. he sold us out or whatever. He's leading us to a trap. And so John doesn't believe him, but he's like, all right, you want to be right? Let's check it out. So he sends two guys, Tomcat and Kawa, which is the sniper. He sent them to like the top of a hill, mountain top, and they're looking. The sniper's looking to see if there's an ambush. They don't. He doesn't see one. Tomcat doesn't see one. But there's a guy in the jeep. I believe it's JJ, and he's checking the computers or whatever. He's kind of like communicating with base, and there's like drones that were flown out or whatever to check the area. Well, while that's happening because they have to wait for that information. Ahmed attacks Hadid, and pretty much Hadid's on the ground with like a bloody nose, and has a gun to his neck, and Ahmed has a gun to this guy's neck, and he's like, it looks like he's about to kill him. Everyone's freaking out. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! What's going on? Like, whoa, whoa, take it easy," because like they don't know Ahmed well enough, right, to be like, "Whoa, is he a traitor? Like, what's going on?" Right? So they draw their guns on him, and John is like, "Remove the gun from his neck," and Ahmed is like resistant, and he says it again. Ahmed doesn't do it, and John's like, "I'm not going to tell you again." Right? There's a very tense moment, right? They in the movie they allow Ahmed, the character, to hold a gun to this guy's neck for a long time before he lets loose, right? And right when that happens, right, John is aiming his gun, and as soon as Ahmed gives the gun to John, right, John puts his gun in his holster, and then he gets a little radio thing, and it says, he's like, JJ's like, "You're not going to believe this, John. There's a problem," right? And John's like, "What's the problem?" He's like, "Well, there's an ambush waiting for us." And so at that moment, John realizes Ahmed was right, and then Hadid is like, "They have my family. They have my family." It's like, I didn't mean to be a traitor or whatever. They have my family. So they return to base. And so that following night, the following morning, John goes sees Colonel Vokes, and they have a little conversation about Ahmed, because John is a little like, he's a bit of a wild man. He's a bit of a wild man, and Colonel Vokes is like, "Yeah, but he saved 8 lives yesterday. He saved all your lives, essentially." And so he's really proving his worth to John and his loyalty, but John is still like, but I don't know. He seems too wild. He can get us in trouble, you know. But the colonel's like, well, he did save all your lives. That's a good thing, right? So they go into the second location. It's about 3 hours away. Uh, what did they say in the movie? 100 clicks, 120 clicks away. Which I don't know what clicks are. Miles? I don't know what that is. Kilometers? I don't know. But essentially, very far away. 3 hours away from base, which is scary, right? Because if you need reinforcements, it's going to take some time. So, anyways, they take some jeeps, whatever. They go to the second location. It's like a mining place, and they're checking it out. They collect all the workers there. They hold them up, and Hamid is asking questions like, what do you do here? Is there anything here? We're looking for the Taliban, and the guy who owns the mining place pretty much lies to him. And Ahmed picks it up. Ahmed tells John, he's like, "I'm pretty sure he's lying to me. There's something going on here." So John, Kinley, Ahmed, and this guy named Eddie, they go check the area out, while the rest of them, which is like Kawa, JJ, Jizzy, uh, Kirshner, Hadid, and who else? And that's pretty much it, I think. They're all like staying back, making sure none of the workers run off or whatever, right? So they're just like holding them down. Two of them check this container, this box container thing, shipment container, and it's filled with guns, right? And not only that, they get a guy who's on the phone, and they get him because the guy on the phone was actually calling like the head Taliban guy, and once the information was once the head Taliban guy found out that the U.S. people were there, he's like, "Send everybody there, ambush them," right? So now you got like an ambush coming, but they don't know. They don't know what's going on. So that's a lot of anticipation right there, a lot of tension. So John, Eddie, and Ahmed, go up this mine. They go up the hill or whatever. They see a little warehouse, and there's 4 terrorists, and there's a guy in a chair who's dead, and there's a camera. I guess they just filmed him, and they're laughing about it. And so they shoot them all. Essentially, they come in, they shoot them all, they kill everybody there. They realize that the killer who killed Jack, the guy from the beginning of the movie, and the interpreter, was there. He was one of the guys they shot. So they shoot him in the head, and they totally kill him. As soon as that happens, this guy comes out of a closet and shoots Eddie in the shoulder, so he gets hit. What's up, Jason? How's it going? How's it going there? I'm going over the Covenant movie by Guy Ritchie, which I don't really have any bad critiques about it. The only thing, there's only one bad, not bad, but a critique I would say that I found was there's I'll get to it. I don't want to get to it quite yet, but once I get to that scene, I'll tell you what my critique is. But that movie is so well made. There's only one moment in the movie that is something doesn't match, right? Something's off. The details don't match. Jason comes out of the closet. Of course, is a closet. Funny. Anyways, yeah, this terrorist Taliban guy comes out of the closet and shoots Eddie in the shoulder. So they kill him. You know, army guys, I guess, they carry in their backpacks they carry stuff, and one of the stuff is an explosive. So they set an explosive, and it's got a 3-minute charge or whatever. And so they're gonna blow up this EID facility that they found. John radios into JJ, and he's like, call in the the helicopters, the reinforcements to come in, whatever. So as soon as they start walking out, they get ambushed. More Taliban start coming out. One of them kills Eddie. Eddie gets shot in the head, like in the face, like he's gone, he's dead. So Ahmed and John shoot and kill the other Taliban that came out from the side of the warehouse. And then down below where everybody is, John is like, we got contact or whatever. He's like, call it in. And so JJ calls in. There's contact with the soldiers, and so they're 15 minutes away. Jason says subliminal messaging in film, so they say. Funny. Well, that's a really funny comment, but in this situation, I don't think that's even relevant, to be honest. But that is funny. So yeah, so essentially down below where everybody else is, all these Taliban jeeps start arriving, right? You got these jeeps, not jeeps, they're like trucks, and it's filled with like Taliban or whatever, and they start coming in from the north and the other side of the road. So they're basically they're just coming from every direction. And so you got one guy who gets like notified. He's on top of the Humvee with a big machine gun, and he starts like preparing. That's Kushner's on, and he starts shooting. The Taliban start coming out, and eventually he gets shot in the head too, like right in the face, and he's out. And so Tomcat gets on the machine gun, and he starts shooting back. And Kawa is up there a little bit. He's got a high point, and because John told him to get to a high point like a little bit earlier, and so he starts sniping some Taliban. Oh man, it's worth it. Oh, totally worth it. The Covenant by Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie is a fantastic director. I mean, he's one of those directors that you're going to get a quality movie from every aspect. From everything that he does is superb, right? But he's just one of those directors. He's a very, very serious director. He takes his craft and art very seriously, right? So essentially, what happens then is everyone's getting ambushed. There's jeeps coming in from everywhere. They're getting overwhelmed. Kawa, there's a Taliban comes, he sets a mortar and starts shooting it at John and Ahmed who are running. And it actually, one of the mortars strikes Kawa and kills him. Sniper's out. It's on Netflix. I don't know if you have Netflix. I'm not sure where else you can find it. But right now it's on Netflix, and totally worth it. Totally worth it. Very good movie. 2 thumbs up. 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know, whatever you want to say. Um, so Kawa dies. Kushner, who was on the machine gun, dies. Who's next? And Tomcat, right, gets on a machine gun on top of the Humvee, and there's another truck comes in, but this time there's a guy with a rocket launcher, shoots a rocket, and destroys the Humvee where Tomcat was. So now three of the guys, well, if you include Eddie, that's 4 guys down already, just like that, like within 2 minutes. They're getting annihilated. So who's left is Jizzy, who runs up, tries to kill them, but he gets shot, and then so he dies. So now you only have JJ and Hadid, John, and Ahmed. Only 4 left. So they're kind of separated. JJ and Hadid run up like a mountainside a little bit to get to a higher position, and they're like killing people while they're up, and there's people coming up from behind them down below shooting at them. But then you have John and Ahmed who are coming around and killing the people who are down there, and they're also making their way to where JJ and Hadid are running to. And so once they kill all the people around this truck, another truck comes in from behind them, like literally behind them. So there's Hadid and JJ are stuck between the people coming up from behind them, right, and then the truck that's like literally right in front of them, like came up from behind them. It's like right in front of them, so they're stuck. So if it wasn't for John and Ahmed killing the people, the new truck that just drove in, that probably would have killed them. They flank them basically, kill those men who came to the truck. And so, JJ's like, we need a plan. What do we do? So John tells him, get in the truck, get to high position. And then John and Ahmed take the second truck. And so JJ starts flooring it, and JJ's like, all right, follow me, John. And as soon as he says that, it gets struck by a mortar and it blows up. So now JJ and Hadid are dead. All that's left is John Kinley and Ahmed. And so they're running off in this Jeep. And of course, what happens? They pop a tire. So once they get a little distance, they actually abandon ship and they start on foot. Okay, this is the turning point in Act 1. Okay, and now we're basically coming into Act 2. Act 2 is the moment where shit happens to the point where the character walks through a door, a metaphorical door, and they can't return. Okay, it's impossible to return to the life they had. Okay, it's just impossible. And especially what happened right there. Their entire unit just got killed, and they almost got killed. So now Ahmed and John, they're on foot and they're just running for their lives. So now it comes to like nightfall. They get enough distance between them and the Taliban. They sleep for a little bit. Come morning, John wakes Ahmed and is like, they're 2 minutes away from us. If we need to double time it, and get a move on it, right? So they book it. So they're running. We're basically in Act 2 right now, and they're running for their lives. And the Taliban's like right on their tail essentially, and they're double timing it. John and Ahmed, they start sliding down a hill, right? And they're sliding down. Ahmed loses his gun, which is like, oh, are you serious? You just lose your gun like that? Anyways, once they get down below, John is like, what happened to your gun? Ahmed's like, well, it's halfway up the cliff. So John gives him his handgun. He's like, don't lose that. And like, stay on me. And, Ahmed's like, yeah, I'm following you, I'm following you, boss. And so they're running through this like canyon ravine thing. And they take out one guy with a knife, and they're running around. They run into another guy, sneak up on him, take him out with a knife. And then as they're sneaking in their way, the Taliban see them, and before they shoot at him, John kills them. Everybody can hear the gunshots, and they pretty much know where they're coming from. So all the Taliban start coming towards where they're at. So they're running for their lives. They're getting shot at from everywhere, and eventually they're able to like hide in a little cave thing. And so the Taliban don't see them. They like pass them. There's like 8 or 10 of them, maybe 20. So they're all looking for them, and they pass them. Eventually, they get on foot again, and they They just walk across terrain, on foot. They get to a house and they stay the night at the house. And as they stay there at the night of the house, the Taliban aren't that far away. They have like a binoculars, whatever. They can see where they're at. They're at a house, and they're talking to the head Taliban guy, and he's like, yeah, tomorrow, go get them. I want them alive. Don't let them escape. Don't kill them, but I want them alive. And so, following morning, there's a when they killed some of the guys with the knives, they were able to get a walkie-talkie. So anytime they hear chatter from the walkie-talkie from the Taliban, they know they're close, right? So they start to hear chatter, and this wakes up John and Ahmed translates for John. He's like, yeah, they see a house, and John's like, well, I haven't seen too many houses around here. It's like, this is the only fucking house here. So John's like, we gotta go. So when John goes, is going, he Ahmed is kind of behind in the house. John gets ambushed by like three Taliban. They're shooting at him, and he gets shot in the arm and in the leg. And finally, they just hit him in the head. They catch up to him and they take him. He's being dragged by three Taliban, and one guy hits him really hard in the head, like in the forehead, essentially. There's like all this blood coming down, and he's just out of it, right? And they're dragging him, and there's three of them. One of the Taliban guys really wants to kill him, but the other guy's like, no, 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 we had orders not to kill him. Right, here comes a truck. So there's four of them now. And so here comes Ahmed, shoots shoots the guy in the truck, right? Make sure they're all dead. Saves him again. Okay. I don't know how many times he saved John. This is like, I don't know, like the third time he saved John. And at this point, this is like, you know, this is where, we're in Act Two, and this is where kind of Act Two really begins. Ahmed basically has to drag John 100 clicks back to the base. That's a long ass journey on foot, especially when there's mountains and there's Taliban trying to kill you. So what he does is he takes off his military outfit. He puts on more of a Muslim type outfit, right? It fits in with the environment, whatever. He builds a little, what do you call it? Just some like a little gurney out of wood and blankets for like just using sticks, and he puts a John on it, and he takes care of his wounds, and he starts dragging him on this thing right across like mountainous terrain. And so they're staying off the roads, obviously. He's dragging him. Nightfall comes. They're like almost froze to death. He continues his journey. He goes in town, buys a truck, puts John in the back, and the truck had all these carpets. So John is like underneath all these rolled up carpets, and so he's hiding back there. Ahmed is driving his truck. He gets stopped by the Taliban, and the Taliban they stop him not because they think he's suspicious, but because their car broke down and they need a ride. And so he's like, "Hey, can you give us a ride?" Blah blah. He's like, "Yeah, of course." Blah blah blah. And so one guy gets in the front and three guys get in the back of the truck bed. And there's a shot of John where he's like covered, but you can see his eyes, and he's just like, he's like, holy shit. So they give the Taliban a ride. The guy in the front eventually he's like, stop the cars. And it's like it's kind of nerve wracking because like, oh shit, did he realize? But no, they've got to their destination. He's like, thank you. They get off, and Ahmed drives off, and he drives off to a little like shepherd's little farmhouse, and he trades because he can't be on the road; it's too dangerous. So he trades his truck for like a little hand wagon and for some food and opium for John's pain. And so they do a little trade, and so the guy he talks to is like, yeah, everyone's after you. The Taliban are actually killing people if they don't get information from people. It's like a whole mess. They're burning people, hanging them, and this and that. And so he's got to stay off the roads. And so he takes John on this little wooden wagon that he's just using his hands to push him off road through like up the mountain, right? And so here we're pretty much at the midpoint. Okay, we're at the midpoint of the movie, and Ahmed is really has really proof to the audience, proven to the audience, but also to John that he's super loyal, right, to the U.S. He really wants those visas, and this is pretty much what he has to do, right, to get those visas. He has to return John alive. He knows if he does that, that's what's going to get him his visas. And there's a breaking moment for Ahmed in the midpoint where he just breaks down spiritually, I guess, like internally. He's so tired of pushing that wagon uphill. I mean, one of the wheels gets stuck in a crack and he can't push it, and so he takes a break and he's just like basically basically crying. He's like broken. He's like, if I don't do this, I don't get my visas for my family. They will probably die. So he musters up whatever energy he has in his willpower to do this, and he finally pushes the wagon off that crack and keeps going uphill. Like 2 days pass, and he's pushing this wagon, right? And eventually, he gets to a point where he sees the army base, and he's a little bit relieved, right? So then he just keeps going. He gets to this place. Kind of, he goes downhill down the mountain. He gets to this place where there's a little little market area where they're selling food and water. And so he buys water. And he's just like he gives some to John, but the rest of it he just pours on himself. I mean, he's done. He collapses, right? He's just like, I'm dead. I'm tired of pushing this wagon. And so at that moment, right, at the lowest moment, Ahmed is exhausted and pretty much dead. This truck comes up, and Ahmed makes sure to hide John with like some covers, right, to hide him. And so the Taliban come, they buy water, and they're drinking it. And there's one guy who's looking at the wagon kind of suspiciously. He's like, "What's going on?" He's looking at it, looks at Ahmed, looks back at the wagon, and then eventually he notices U.S. military boots sticking out the other end. And so that's when the terrorist guy is like, he looks at Ahmed. By the time he looks at Ahmed, he already has a gun pulled out. It's John's gun, right? And he shoots him, and he shoots the driver. And the last Taliban guy who's there, who's alive, like goes at him with like a sword or whatever, and like knocks his gun out. But Ahmed is more military trained. They even said that in the beginning of the movie. He's got more training, and so he's able to fight him, knock the knife out with the sword or whatever, and chokes the guy to death. Um, At this time, they're not very far from the military base. Like I said, they're very close. So I guess they heard the gunshots. U.S. military shows up. They they um, they they don't know who Ahmed is, so they tell him to get to the ground, stick your hands up. And they put his hands behind his back and hold him down on the ground. And Ahmed's like, I have one of yours in the wagon or whatever. They check the wagon. They realize it's John. So pretty much the next scene, they're calling for a helicopter or whatever. He gets, what do they call it, medvac. He gets medvac to back to the base. 4 weeks later, he wakes up in a hospital. Right, it's a very slow wake up. He's like blurry, can't see anything. He wakes up. He's like, "What's going on? Where am I? What happened?" Right. Then he's back home in Santa Clara, California, with his wife and family. He's having a barbecue, and he's talking to Declan, and he's telling him the whole situation. Right, right. We're in Act Two. We're starting to come to the basically Act Two turning point. Right, we're building up to that. Midpoint's already passed. Right. Ahmed at this point, we don't know what's going on with Ahmed. He's just like disappeared from the story. But Declan is telling him. So here's what happened. Ahmed saved your life, right? And essentially, it's become like folklore in Afghanistan. Like everybody knows what happened. It's like a big middle finger to the Taliban. They're very upset, and Ahmed has become like one of the most wanted men for the Taliban. Like they want to find him and kill him, and Ahmed is in hiding with his family. And so this is like disturbing news to John. Like John was like, he saved my life and the US military just abandoned him. Like what the hell? It's like, so his new mission is clear, right? He's got to do something to save Ahmed, right? Ahmed, even though he's back in the States. So he starts calling, his connections. He starts calling his different chains of command, whatever, for him to help him. And there's a montage of him trying to call about getting visas and this. It's like it's complicated. They keep putting him on hold. He never gets through to anybody. And so essentially 30 days go by and he's just frustrated. And it's the fact that he can't do anything and the bureaucracy is just holding him back and not helping him. The proper channels are not helping him, even though they're the ones that caused this. He's really pissed and he's spiraling out, and it's the fact that he's alive, that this man saved him, he's back home safe with his family, and this man who saved him is in trouble, right? And that he can't do anything about it is literally eating him up inside. Like he can't sleep, he gets no rest, right? It's like a curse, right? He can't stop thinking about it. He gets, like I said, he gets no rest, and he's doing everything he can. So he gets to a point, to a conclusion, where essentially he realizes he's talking to Declan. He's like, you know what you have to do? You're gonna have to go get him yourself because they're not gonna help you. And so, once they realize that, that's pretty much the turning point for Act Two. That's another metaphorical doorway the main character walks through. It's a realization, right? It turns the whole story, right? It solidifies the debt that he's got to pay back, right, to Ahmed. And not just that, he's got to make a choice, right? He's got to put in the action to do this. Samantha says, "Hi, don't mean to interrupt. Ignore me. Continue, please. You have a nice smile." What's up? Kit says, "Popcorn. Eating pop. Dude, I wish I had popcorn. You know what? Well, it's hard to eat popcorn and talk at the same time, but man, that's a brilliant idea. Popcorn sounds good." Um, Again, a great movie. We're getting close to the end of Act Two, but the turning point of Act Two, the Act Two breaking point, is when he realizes he's got to go in himself and do this, and then now there's a new action taking place. Katie, oh Katie, what's up? Kit X8M, Katie, cool. So John is now basically Declan gives him my iPad and channel messed up. Gotcha, Katie. I know who you are now. Yeah. Hey, welcome. Good to talk to you again. Welcome back. Samantha says, "Hi." You read it out loud anyway. Well, I'm going off memory, but essentially, yeah. So now he's taking new action, right? He's talking. He's communicated with this guy named Parker. Parker is a private what do you call it? Contractor for like military operations, that kind of stuff. And so they make a deal. He's Parker's going to help him go to Afghanistan and get him set up and talk to Ali, which is Ahmed's brother, and get the information they need to find Ahmed. But it turns out Ahmed will only give him the information where Ali will only give John the information where Ahmed is. He'll do that only if they get the visas, right? So John goes to Colonel, what's his name? I already forgot his name. How could I forget his name already? Vokes, Colonel Vokes, and is like, "Look, I saved your life 8 years ago, okay? And I know you're the kind of man that repays his debts. You owe me this. Get me those effing visas. I don't care what you have to do, but get me those visas. Like, period. Okay, I saved your life. You owe me this." Kind of retouching on the theme of the whole movie, which is like paying your debt back when someone saves your life. There's a bit of a uh, moral thing going on, right? Like, this guy saved your life, right? You got to pay it back. So Colonel Vokes agrees. He's like, "Yeah, I'll get those visas for you." And so now there's some scenes with the family again, and every time we see the family, it's really interesting because they show not only John's family, but then the next scene is Ahmed's family. So we go to Ahmed's family, And Ahmed, the Taliban are hunting him down. Right, he's at his home. He gets a call from this guy named Puya. I think it's Puya, and he's like, "Hey, the Taliban are coming. Right, you got to get out of there." And he's like, he's on the phone with him with Ahmed. Ahmed reacts quickly, gets his wife ready, and they have their baby. Right, and she's no longer pregnant. Some time has gone by. Streams, Katie says. Um, so essentially, Ahmed is like acting like like a spy. He's like running around. He's getting information from Puya, telling him what to do and what's going on. He says there's one Taliban guy coming up to your back door. So Ahmed goes to the back door, unlocks it. There's a little chain that he unlocks quietly. He has his knife. And so one Taliban guy opens the door, walks in, and here comes Ahmed from behind him and just like grabs him and slices his throat, right? And then the guy on the phone, Puya, is like, "Hey, there's more Taliban coming in your front door. They're actually going in your front door." And so you can hear it. You can hear a door getting busted. And so Ahmed's like in the back door. He gets his wife. He exits the back door, and then Puya's like, "There's more Taliban coming. There's more Taliban coming." And so Ahmed like ducks down, and there's a group of people playing cards and something. So he just like pretends he's playing with them or something. So this van drives by, and then he gets back up and starts walking to this truck. And there's Puya, and he's got like it's like one of those commercial trucks, like big trucks that like carry big cargo. And so Ahmed and his wife and kid, they get in the back of the truck. Puya gets in the front and drives off, right? And they're safe. That's what Ahmed is dealing with, right? And so now, cut to John's family life and all that. John's over there with his wife, and they have a little talk. And the wife is like, "It's really hard because number one, we thought you were dead, and then you came back, right? That was hard for us. But I also know that this man saved your life, and we owe that much to Ahmed for you to go back there and save his life, right? It's the right thing to do." And she's like, "Come back alive." It's pretty much the last conversation they have. John says his goodbyes the following morning. He leaves. He lands on somewhere in Afghanistan where Parker is at. Parker is this like private contractor, right? He does like military stuff. He's having a talk with Parker, and there's a little bit of problems. Parker is like, "Well, what is it? My mic sounds like you're taking screenshot when you brush it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is it okay? I'm sorry. I'll try not to touch it." Um, but So there's a bit of a problem with Parker. There was never a solid contract between John and Parker, because this is another scene that's questioning the whole theme of the movie about loyalty, right? Loyalty for the man versus just doing your job, right? And so Parker's like, "Yeah, there's something that came from the top. There's this UN diplomat we got to go save. It's a whole thing, right?" And John is like, "No, no, we had a deal. It wasn't a contract, but we had an agreement. We're men. There's an agreement, right?" And Parker's like, "Well, we have to like what's the word? Come to an agreement somewhere, right?" Samantha says, "Who's the handsome guy in the PFP? That's you. You clean up nicely. Don't be sorry. It sounds nice, like being one step and repeat." How funny. Well, yeah, hopefully it doesn't mess up. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks a bunch, Samantha. Um, but essentially, they come to an agreement where it's like John's gonna go right alone to Afghanistan to find Ali, and once he finds Ali, or once he finds Ahmed, to call Parker to let him know, then he's gonna send in his reinforcements to go get him, because Parker has to go take care of this UN diplomat. He needs he needs 72 hours before he can help John. So John's alone basically for 72 hours. He's by himself doing this mission. So Parker gives him a van, some money, weapons, all the stuff he needs. So he drives off and he finds Ali. Ali is Ahmed's brother. Now Ali does is a major drug dealer and he does business with the Taliban. That's why the Taliban don't touch him. You know, if they wanted the Taliban, they could have killed him. They could have beat him up. They could have done anything to get the information about Ahmed, but they haven't done it because he's too respected. He's kind of like a mafia guy, right? You don't touch him, basically. You just don't touch him. So Ali's talking to John. He's like, he tells him where Ahmed is, but they got to take his transport. They can't use the van because it draws too much attention. So he's got a specific transport that has papers, that he's got the driver that's got papers to get through checkpoints, Taliban checkpoints. So they do that. John is on his way. When he's in the back and hiding of this big cargo truck, he calls, Colonel Vokes calls his satellite phone, and Colonel Vokes says, "I got the visas. Parker has them." So boom, that's awesome. They're on their way to find Ahmed. They pass a checkpoint, no problem. They get to a second checkpoint, and there's problems. Okay, the Taliban there's two of them, and they think there's something suspicious going on. They pretty much says like, what's in the back? We got to see what's in the back. And Puya, the driver, is like trying to pay off one of the guys, and it pisses him off. He's like, "You trying to pay me off? You can't pay me off. Like, what are you hiding? You know?" And he's like, get on your knees," and like about to kill him essentially. So John is hiding in this spot that's up high in the cargo area. You got one of the Taliban in the back looking. He doesn't find anything. Here comes John with a sniper, not a sniper, but a handgun with a silencer, and he shoots both Taliban members, whatever, and kills them. And Puya was like, "Oh my god, I thought I was gonna die. Like I thought we were dead." In the distance, there's a guy in a car who is like I guess like second in command or third or whatever of the Taliban, and he's got like binoculars, and he sees what's going on because he heard a gunshot. Because one of the Taliban before he dies, like pulled the trigger once and did one shot, right? And so it was like boom, really loud. So he hears it, he gets his binoculars, and he reports back to the head Taliban guy. And he's like, "Hey, there's something going on at a checkpoint." Uh, and the head Taliban guy's like, "Well, follow them, find out who they are." And so he does. So they drive off, right? Puya and John, they drive off. John calls, once they arrive to this little town where they find Ahmed, John calls Patrick. Or Patrick? Was it Patrick? Am I getting names confused? But the guy who's like the private contractor, right? He calls him and says, "Look, I found Ahmed. Send in your people to pick us up." And this guy's like, "Okay, here's a checkpoint. Meet us at this dam. We'll be there, right, in like 2 hours." And then John's like, "Well, listen, you might have to hurry up because we kind of created a mess behind us, and so there might be issues." Samantha says, "I'm new here. I was scrolling. I came in at the part of the desert Taliban chasing people, and I thought you seem interesting. That and your smile." I subscribed and thumbs up. Hey, appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going over a movie, a little bit of a movie review at the beginning, and kind of a plot outline, kind of going. I love scripts and movies, so that's kind of what I do now sometimes. Um, we're getting close to the ending here. We're in Act 3 right now, and Act 3 is John on this like mission to save Ahmed, right? And we're coming up to the climax, and so John finds Ahmed. He talks to him. He's like, "We gotta go." They go to his wife. Somewhat. I'm an independent filmmaker. I wouldn't really say I'm in the business, but I did work in the film industry for about 5 years, as a production assistant, an extra, stand-in. I've worked on a lot of stuff. Killers of the Flower Moon, Stillwater, Tulsa King, and any big project that came through Oklahoma, I was like lucky enough to work on it. I was really dedicated to it. Actually, today I even submitted to be for an actor in a movie. So who knows? Maybe I'll get it. Who knows? Maybe I'll get the audition. I don't know. But essentially, yeah, we're coming to the climax. When John finally says, "I have your visas," Ahmed's wife is like almost breaks down in tears, right? Because they've been in hiding. They felt abandoned by the US military. Here comes John by himself, just doing it on his own, right? Just doing the right thing, right? And so she like you can see in her acting, she's like breaking down in tears, like really good moment there. And so they gotta go. They gotta go right now. And so at that moment, the guy that was following them has like a binoculars or whatever and sees that it is Ahmed and it's John. And they're both really like wanted men by the Taliban. Oh yeah, you work at a TV station? That's pretty cool. I'm a crow? Crow? CRO? CRO. CRO. Not sure what a CRO is. CRO. Control room operator. Oh, see, I never worked in TV like that. I was always a production assistant. The only time I worked on a television show was a show called. I worked for a whole year as a production assistant on the field. It was a TV show, a spinoff of the 48 Hours. It was called the Last. Was it the Last 48 Hours, something like that? And it was like here in Tulsa. It was revisiting the detectives and the families that had lost somebody, and kind of like a revisitation after a whole year of just looking back at the stuff, right? And having these interviews with detectives and judges and all kinds of people. I got to meet all kinds of police officers and investigators. It's pretty nuts. And the families, that was a hard one to meet these families because I felt so out of place, right? I was a production assistant, and so meeting them, it was like, like they lost somebody, right? Somebody murdered them. And so it's like murdered one of their family members. So it's like, I'm just the guy who helps set up lights and plug in stuff and helps the camera guy and this and that stands. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that'd be amazing if I get this part. That'd be a big breakthrough because I've been like acting wise, which is like a big passion of mine. I was in a play this year and I was in a music video. That's about it. So I just been kind of dry. So that'd be amazing if I get it. Anyways, back to the story, back to the movie, The Covenant. Guy Ritchie film. It's on Netflix. The Covenant, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Amazing movie. Check it out. I give it. It's a military movie. 2 thumbs up. Anyways, so we're getting close to the climax here, right? The guy spots them, calls it in, tells the lead Taliban guy, yes, it is Ahmed, it is John Kinley. So the main Taliban guy is like, send everyone. We have to kill them. We have like just kill them all, right? And so all these jeeps start going off full of Taliban. And so Ahmed, John, Puya, the driver, the wife and kid, right? They're in this big. You despise military films? Well, give this one a try because this is more about the covenant between two men that one man saves one man's life, and now the other man has to repay the debt and save the man's life. It's really interesting. And Guy Ritchie is an amazing director. I never thought Guy Ritchie would make a military movie, but he does something special here. And there's a little bit of truth shed on the whole Afghanistan situation. Anyways, there's action, there's explosions, so you might not like that part. I probably assume, but like I said, it's a true story. It's a really good story. Um, Jake Gyllenhaal is a amazing actor in this. By the way, I thought he was amazing. So yeah, they come to they're on their way to the dam. That's their their checkpoint to meet these other guys that's going to save them, right? And so now you have all this Taliban after them, and so they're on their tail. It's like a chase at this moment. And so John's in the back. He pulls out his gun and starts shooting, and is able to like destroy two of the trucks, whatever. There's still more coming though, and so he tells the driver, block the car, block the entrance to like there's a tunnel that goes to the dam. He's like, block it with your truck, and we'll go on foot. And so he blocks it. He blocks the entrance of this tunnel. Everybody's running on foot. John gets a grenade and sets it underneath the truck, like near the gas tank, and he runs off, and the whole thing blows up. And so that kind of blocks the entrance, right? And so the Taliban, they arrive and they have to like move it. So that kind of buys them time. So once they get to the dam, they get to the tunnel. Once they get to the dam, they're getting shot at, right, from the distance, right? You got people shooting him from the other side of the hill there. They kind of see, they can see the dam, and John's like hiding behind these like cement little things that are on the dam, right? And he's shooting back. Ahmed shooting back. Poya has a gun. He's shooting back, and kind of like in a typical military fashion, they took turns running back, right? Like cover me, shoots, he runs back, and they're shooting, and then the guy in the back goes to the front. So on, right? Till they get to this little building in the middle of the dam, and that's kind of where they're hiding. And essentially, what happens is the Taliban finally move the truck that blew up. They get through. They're making their way up through the dam. There's like 20 of them, right? It's overwhelming, and essentially, John is like has the satellite phone. He's trying to call that guy. He's like, where are you? You said you'd be here. You said you'd meet me. He's kind of freaking out. And so finally, John runs out of bullets and his handgun, his machine gun. Ahmed runs out of bullets and his machine gun and handgun. Puya is pretty much running out of bullets and he gets shot in the shoulder. The Taliban, they're right there. They're about to gain up on them and kill them all. And so there's a moment where you call it the it's at the tip of my tongue, the Dark Night of the Soul, which some movies do them differently, but it's usually right before like the big climax. But this was like right there next to the climax, right? So there's a moment where John feels like everything that he did, even though it was morally correct, and he did everything, he planned everything, and he's doing the right thing. He had a moment where he lost hope, right? And he was like deep in his thought. He's like, I'm gonna lose my family. I effed up. Ahmed and his family are gonna die. Like we lost essentially. And so you can see it, right? It's such a good moment in the movie, and you can see it his like the failure overcoming him. Like he's just lost all hope. And so and you can kind of see it in his head. He's like, was it worth it? I'm gonna die. Was it worth it trying to do the right thing? And so here comes last minute the support from the sky, which is pretty much what we call the third act cavalry in military movies. That is a trope that they use all the time. Very similar to Deus Ex Machina, which is like similar but not quite the same. Okay, it's actually much better than Deus Ex Machina, which is like a thing where an angel comes out of nowhere and saves them. There's no relation to the story, no relation, right? Just magically they get saved. But this is not that, because the third act cavalry was set up from before. John was like, when he was talking to the private contractor, he was like, eventually they're the ones that called in the airplane to come in. It's what is it? AC-130, called Angel of Death. Yeah, sure. Jason says you should do ebooks. You'd be great at it. Just you explaining it can visualize that. Thank you. I'll try that out. Actually, I did read a book. It's called what is it? The art of going viral. It was a 300-page book. I read it every chapter like once a night. I was reading like 20 to 50 pages a night. People enjoyed it. Yeah, I might look into that. But essentially, this huge, massive airplane comes up. It's a AC-130. It's got like basically a canyon on the side of it and a machine gun. And it's just firing at the Taliban. They're all dying, right, and getting blown up. And that's when John's spirit comes back. He's like, "Oh, we're saved! Thank God!" Which again touches on the theme of loyalty, right? Not just like working in the sense of bureaucracy and the chain of command, these are people who are loyal to each other. Okay, it proves the theme, right? Um, it touches on it. So they come in last minute, true to the third act cavalry trope in military movies. This airplane comes in called the Angel of Death and just kills them all, right? Similar to Deus Ex Machina, but not similar. Because like I said, this was earned. John set this up. He prepared it from before, so it's not out of nowhere, right? And so it's different. Um, and so everyone dies. Here comes in the private contractor. He finally makes it. There's an Apache helicopter like shooting other people in the back over there. And so there they are. The cavalry has arrived, right? Saved them from being doomed. And so Ahmed Puya, who gets shot in the shoulder, Ahmed's wife and son, baby son, John, they get into this helicopter. Here comes the private contractor, right? And he's like, they're about to take off this helicopter. And there's a moment of like, completes the theme, right? It's like John is like, you backed yourself, essentially saying, you stayed to your word, you came through, you're a real man of loyalty, and your word is your word, right? Your word is your bond. And so there also at that moment, the covenant is complete. The covenant between John, he had to repay his debt because Ahmed had saved his life. Now John has finally repaid his debt, which comes to pretty much the conclusion of the movie. They're riding the helicopter off. They land at an airport and they're in this plane. And, John gives them the visas. They have their visas finally, which was like in the beginning of the movie, a big thing for them. Jason 629 is the profile picture. I don't, where is Jason? Is it? That's hilarious. That's just his face. Hey, Frencher! What's up? How you doing, Frencher? You made it to the very end. You just showed up. You always show up at the very end. How you doing, Frencher? Hope you're doing well. Um, how's your arm feeling, Frencher? Last time I talked to you, you said you kind of messed it up, and you were missing some teeth. um, so the very I like the very last shot of the movie. Right, they're in this big airplane. Good to hear, Frencher. Good to hear. They're in the airplane heading back to the United States. Ahmed has his visas and whatever. That's really funny, Samantha. That's really funny. Um, it happens. It happens. Um, so the last couple of shots, few shots, is John looking at Ahmed. Ahmed goes like, it's a big thing, right? Like, you came back for me. I saved your life. Now you saved my life. You're a real man, right? You are a man of morality and loyalty, and you didn't just abandon me after I saved your ass. And so John looks at him and is like nothing said, but the covenant is complete, right? There's no more debt owed, and then the John is free. He's free from the debt that he owed him, and so finally the last shot is John just like relaxing his head and falling asleep because he couldn't sleep. He was restless. Like this whole time, he had to repay his debt, right? And so I love that last shot because it's so true to everything that was happening, right? So I love that last shot of him just putting his head back and just falling asleep because now he's at peace. Jason says it's okay. If you click on the crown on the left side of the screen on top, you can view it a bit bigger. Yeah, so true. Anyways, thanks for hanging out, everybody. So that's the whole plot outline of the movie. Um, the only one critique I have, the only one, like I said, it's a damn near perfect movie. which every like movie I reviewed so far has had issues. I've critiqued some things. I think Frankenstein was like also one of those movies that was like perfect. I mean, I consider this movie perfect, but there is one little inconsistency. I like baby sea turtles. I'm a fan. They're cute little baby turtles. Um, there's one inconsistency I found in the movie, which was near the midpoint where uh, John gets shot at in his arm and leg, and the Taliban they actually get to him and they grab him and they're about to take him out, take him in, whatever. Ahmed comes out and he shoots the Taliban that are dragging him. And there's three of them. There's three Taliban dragging John, but there's a shot where like you hear them getting shot, but we only see two Taliban fall over when there was three dragging John. So I thought that was weird. That was the only inconsistency I found throughout the whole movie. Other than that, the movie is like perfect movie structure, tropes, thematically, sequences, hitting marks. I mean, just perfect, right? Um, but that was the only weird thing. It was a bit disappointing because the movie was so perfect, right? If it wasn't for that little inconsistency in the midpoint, it would have been like one of the most perfect movies ever made. Samantha says it's a Christmas tree and what appears to be a very handsome man. My mistake. Yes, indeed. You got to get yourself a picture, Samantha. Get yourself a picture on there. Don't be too shy. Um, but yeah, my picture is a headshot. I have a headshot from like last year. I think. Yeah, about like last year. Jason says, "Ha ha ha." Samantha, thank you. Everyone seems to be very cool tonight. Very cool people. Um, so there you go. There's the whole breakdown, my critique, the review. Awesome movie, you know. And I have to do my little spiel now. This movie review and plot outline is brought to you by Dialogues, Oklahoma Independent Cinema. It's a book I wrote. It took me 2 years. It's on Amazon. If you're interested in my life and what I've done here in Oklahoma as an independent filmmaker, I interview 14 other producers, filmmakers, actors. They give their little insights about their life. And also brought to you by the Stay Gold Film Festival, which is now accepting short films. Frontier says, "What's on your wish list?" Is that a question for everybody? I think it's a question for everybody, but I'll answer for me. My wish list is to get these wireless microphone things that like are used on professional movie sets. It's really the one thing I'm missing out of my arsenal to make short films. So it's on my wish list. Anybody else want to share their wish list? Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? The next movie I'm going to do, next movie review, is going to be Tuesday. And it'll be, there's a movie called Caught Stealing, which looks really interesting. Looks really, really good. A kind of movie, my kind of style of movie, dark humor, um, you know, mafia kind of thing, Russian mafia, and kind of a bit violent, a bit brutal. But it stars the guy who played Elvis, which I can't remember his name top of my head. But I like him better in this movie than I did in Elvis. I thought Elvis was kind of like, eh, eh. It's almost like I don't think they got the right actor to play Elvis, but that's just me. But I did like him in this movie, Caught Stealing. He was really good. Samantha says, "You're welcome, Jason. I did have a pick, but people thought I was AI. Then I use this and they think I'm a robot. I can't win." What a dilemma. What a dilemma. Maybe you just got to make a video. Make a video of yourself, like a little introduction video, you know. But you're right. You're right. People are going to think they're just going to people are going to think whatever they're going to think. There's nothing you can do about that. There was once a guy who accused me when I was live. He's like, "You're not live," because I wasn't commenting, like talking to him, because I was busy talking about something. And he kept commenting, but I wasn't ignoring him. I was just caught up with what I was saying. And so he was like, "This isn't a real live thing. You're not even responding to my chats, right?" And I was like, "Man, people will think whatever they think, right?" And he left. He left before I looked down. I looked down and I saw his comment, but he was gone. And I was like trying to respond back. I was like, "Hey, I am live. I just didn't see your comments. I was like looking up and talking to myself or something." Yeah, yeah, it's true. No vaping. No vaping, Frencher. I'm doing a good job. I haven't vaped in a week, I feel like. I'm doing a good job staying away from it, you know? It was pretty tough. It was pretty tough to quit that, you know? Once it's a habit, it's in there and like it's something you really enjoy. It's really hard to quit that, you know? And it started with you guys. You guys were like, "You should quit. You should quit vaping." And I listened to you guys. I was like, "You know what? You're right. I should quit vaping." So I put in the effort just for you, Frencher, and everyone else that said it. Yeah, I hear that. But you can upload a video though, can't you? Can't you upload a video, like a little video, like make a video on your phone, perhaps, and upload it? It's just a suggestion. You don't have to do that, but maybe that might help out that situation. But it does suck. It just people are so they don't trust anything anymore. You know, they just don't. A lot of people just don't trust things at face value anymore. It's very sad, very sad. But my thing is trust but verify, right? But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It took me a while to get over my shyness, right? Because all the acting stuff and training actually helped out a lot. It didn't help out my acting career, but it did help me overcome my fears and shyness about being on YouTube. It really did. It's not. It's a lot of it is just not giving a crap what other people think about you. That's what it is at the end of the day. Because people are going to say stuff, they're going to think stuff about you, they're going to judge you. And if you don't have that thick skin, to be like, whatever, say whatever you will, it's not going to affect me one way or the other. I know who I am as a person, you know. I know my weaknesses, my shortcomings. I'm pretty authentic to myself. I try to be real about me and my shortcomings and all that. So people can say whatever, but what's that saying? Know thyself. I feel like if you know thyself and you know yourself better than anybody, then nothing anyone can say can really hurt you. Not really. Not if you don't allow it. Um, but cool. Yeah, maybe I should subscribe back. I'm gonna write down these names. There's a way for me to check subscribers, but if I write it down real quick, I can remember that way. Samantha F5O3Q. So I can just do a search and find you and subscribe back on my subscribers list if you're subscribed. Anyways, that's it. That's the whole movie review. The Covenant, fantastic movie. Highly recommend it for a military movie. Yeah, you guys should communicate. Friends are welcome here, and people are welcome to make friends with each other. Absolutely, absolutely. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it a night. It's been an hour and 30 minutes live. That's a pretty good stretch. I appreciate everybody that was here. Looks like you guys are making friends, which is cool. It's all about connecting, right? Connecting with people. Hope you guys enjoyed that little movie review and plot outline. I was as thorough as I could be. with all the story mechanics and character arcs and whatnot. Is that a question for me? Hey, what's your name? Is that me or are you talking to Jason? Me? I go by Lasso. I go by Lasso um, on YouTube. Yes, you, Samantha says. Yeah, I go by Lasso. 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 Such a name to have in Oklahoma, and it's like the most perfect name you could have in Oklahoma. It's like such a cowboy name in a way, like old school Will Rogers kind of thing, Lasso. Um, Lasso, two S's or one? Two S's. Two S's. AKA Lasso's Passions. Yeah, there you go. I all I do is just try to crush my dreams and hobbies and passions. That's all I do on this channel, you know. Following my passions, my hobbies, my dreams. I had a lot of goals this year. Totally crushed them. One goal was to hit 1,000 subscribers. Did that. Thanks to all of you on here. One goal was to be in a play. I did that. One goal was to be in a haunted house, like build a haunted house. Did that. One goal was to do a film festival. Did that. Some other goal was to paint celebrities and get them signed by celebrities. I did that. I published a book. Did that. So every goal I had this year, I did it. My next goals are good to have. Goals are good to have. Whatever goals you want to do in life, you should definitely write them down. Write them down and go after them. My next goal, I actually have it right here. My next goals for next year, kind of funny, but get a full-time job. I got my film festival in May, write and publish my second book, create a short film, and paint more celebrities. Yeah, I reached my 1,000. Oh, and then reach 1,000,000 views is also my next goal for next year. Jason says, "Wow, Samantha, you're gorgeous." He's got hearts coming out of his eyes. But yeah, yeah. So next goal for YouTube is 1,000,000 views, which right now I am at 760,000 views. So I'm not far away from hitting 1,000,000 views. So getting those goals, riding those goals, and chasing after them. Makes you feel good when you actually accomplish, the small goals and the big goals in life. Makes you feel really good. So, what state you in, Samantha? What state you hail from? What state you hail from, or what country? Well, I'm assuming U.S., but you never know. It could be Canada. You could be from the UK. Could be from Australia. I get some folks from Australia. Um, yeah, it's actually really nice. I get a lot of people from around the world. New York City, the Big Apple. Very nice. Very cool. Originally from Dallas. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, Dallas is a big city. You went from a big city to a very big city. How are you holding up in New York City? I feel like it's getting like it was pretty rough during COVID, right? And then now it's like I feel like maybe crime is a little rougher. I don't know. I don't know. But a lot of people moved away from New York City during COVID. I'll say that. There's a lot. I know a lot of people from New York that moved in, especially in the film industry. They moved away from New York and moved here, and they treated us like shit. They thought we were just like these, we don't know anything, dumb independent filmmakers. Like we haven't done anything, and that's just horrible treatment. Their egos, wow, big egos. That's what I'll say. Samantha says, I hate it here. Yes, too cold, only here for work and school. Gotcha. Yeah. Katie says, everyone's smart. Everyone's pretty smart, yeah. You'd be surprised. Some people are very gullible and not too good with the whole common sense thing. Sometimes, just a handful of those, you know. You'll every now and then you come across somebody. Frencher says, my work is being unemployed and doing videos in school. Yeah, but you're young. You're still young, Frencher. You got a ways to go. It just matters how mean they are. Yeah, kindness is makes the world go round, I think. Kindness is a thing that really brings people together. Forgiveness gives people chances, you know, brings people together. I don't know what else to say. Kindness is it's free, you know, and you can use it's like a monetary system in a way. You can use it all the time, you know. You can pay your life through kindness. There's so much you can do with kindness. There's so many doors that can open with kindness, right? You treat somebody with kindness and they'll treat you back with the same, hopefully. It doesn't always work out that way, you know, but ideally you get back what you put out, right? Katie says hi. I see you, Katie. Well, folks, Katie, Frencher, Samantha, Jason. Who else was here? Who else was here hanging out? That's pretty much everybody. I don't think anybody else really started commenting. But yeah, you guys have a good night. You know, I'm gonna go to bed, and yeah. So I mean, I can stick around, I guess, for a little more, but I don't see what for. I mean, I guess I can hang out, but yeah, I'm getting tired. I gotta wake up early. Yeah, yeah, sure. I'm thinking of doing it around 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. 8 p.m. 8 p.m. And yeah, is that too early, or do you want me to go a little later? All right, all right. Everyone's saying good night. Very cool. Don't stay up too late, kids. Eastern would make it a bit later, right? Eastern would make it so if it's 8 o'clock here, it probably makes it 9 or 10, I think, because West makes the time go uh like down, because like California is 2 hours behind, I believe, Central. So yeah, yeah, you guys have been awesome for reals though, for reals. So tomorrow night, 8 o'clock then, like 8:30 p.m. We'll do that. So everybody take it easy. It's been a pleasure. My name is Lasso. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for chilling. Thanks for stopping in. Lasso's Passions. Coming live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Broadcasting live. Yeah, yeah. Nice to meet everybody. Nice to meet you too, Samantha. I'm glad you guys connected and connected with me too. So check out the movie on Netflix. Check out the movie on Netflix. Katie, yeah, it's 12:38 over there. Yeah, yeah, you're definitely ahead of time. Yeah, Eastern. Yeah, yeah. Check out if you got Netflix. Check it out. The Covenant. You know, check it out. Just check it out. Check it out. Katie's still wide awake. Yeah, you kiddos stay up late. All right, I'm out of here, folks. I'll see you tomorrow night, I guess, if you want to join me. 8:30 Central Standard Time for me. So I salute you all. Good night. I'm out. Till next time. Peace, my friends. Good to meet you all. Good to meet you.